Hello and welcome to the Vandal Factory podcast. This is where we discuss arts and activism with me, Henry Raby, and Natalie Quatermass. And this is a Factory Floor Cuts special mini episode focusing on one person or one project. And here we have the incredible Mohammed Moussa, who is the founder of the Gaza Poets Society. Now, Mohammed was born in Jabalia camp in the north of Gaza, and by chance he was outside of Gaza when Israel began its assault in 2023, and he's now based in Turkey. We met and interviewed Mo at Greenbelt Festival, which you can listen to as episode number 36, alongside another Palestinian artist called Fadi Murad. But I helped put together a tour for Mo at the end of November 2025, and this episode is a chat halfway through those UK dates here at Vandal Factory HQ. Halfway through the episode, you'll hear a poem from Mohammed recorded at the Crescent in York. If you enjoy what you hear, please like, please subscribe, please share with your friends, please share on social media. We don't get any financial support for doing these podcasts, so every bit of support you can show is massively appreciated to platform these artists. If you're interested in more conversations with Palestinian artists, you find a huge list of all the incredible artists we've spoken to on our website, vandalfactory.co.uk. And if you're interested in more conversations about poetry, I would recommend episode number 14, which features poet Hannah Davies, and episode 34, which features Joshua Edahan. Okay, hope you enjoy. On with the chat. And over here grabbing a cup of tea is
Natalie Quatermass.
And we're sat in our little living room at Vandal Factory HQ. Nat has pulled out all her Christmas decorations and bits and bobs and pieces in an attempt to impress our special guest that we've got staying over with us, who is Mohammed Moussa. Hello.
Hello, Henry, and hello, Nat, and thank you for having me here at your beautiful cozy wozy house.
We've been teaching Mohammed lots of British phrases, including ones that are just sort of our own little Natisms. Nat, what does cozy wozy mean?
Well, everyone knows what cozy means, right?
Yeah.
But then
warm.
But then it's taking it up to the next level, which is cozy wozy, and then there's the ultimate, which is when my dog Obi is involved. So we get cozy wozy Obi. And if he's then cozy and doing something really cute, then you get cozy wozy Obi wobi woo-wah.
We've had a ginger wine. So thank you so much, Mohammed, for joining us. Listeners who haven't listened to our interview with you at Greenbelt Festival might be sat there going, who's this guy? What's this? So... And you've been on tour, you've had to do this a lot, but can you just give a little introduction to who is the man, the myth, the legend, Mohammed Moussa?
Well, he's just, a poet from Gaza, especially from the north of Gaza. And I am the founder of Gaza Poets Society and Gaza's Creative Allies. And these are two collectives. The Gaza Poets Society is the first spoken word community in Gaza, established in 2018 and still going on till now. And Gaza's Creative Allies was established recently to highlight the work of creatives from around the world who create in solidarity with Gaza. Me personally, I published 2 poetry collections, and I have my upcoming collection coming next year. And this is me. I used to be a podcast host and also hosted the first podcast in Gaza Guy podcast in 2020. But yeah, I'm here with Henry, just a normal guy chatting.
Your voice is like so gentle and podcasty, unlike me and Nat's, which is like you've honed that introduction because you've been on tour here in the UK since
in the north.
In the north, mainly in the north. It's because I was like, oh, I'll book you some dates, and I don't know anybody in the south, so I just like booked a load of northern dates. Just how you found it? How have you found gigging? This is your 3rd time in the UK, so how have you found just the general vibe of performing spoken word to UK audiences?
Well, I want to say thank you to Say Out and thanks to Henry for organizing this tour. It is my first time to do such a tour, and it really opened my eyes as a poet, first of all, into the spoken word culture here and the poetry culture here, which is something I really, really was looking forward to see and experience. And I would say that this tour really showed me, how poetry lives and nests in the community here, and was really, really inspired as a poet. But as a Palestinian poet, I've seen the love and the warmth by the poets that I've met, and each gig was different and unique in its own way. And I really enjoyed the audience and felt really the warmth and the love in their eyes after the shows, and really, really an experience to be remembered for somebody who wished something to happen like this, something like this to happen before. And I appreciate you, Henry, organizing this tour and representing me and the Gaza Poets Society.
You mentioned being in front of an audience as a Palestinian poet, and obviously you're writing in the moment a huge amount about what's happening in Gaza. Do you hold that as like, I have to tell this story, I embrace that identity as a Palestinian poet, and that's front and center, or is it still, look, I'm just a human and these are just my experiences of the world?
Well, I have to say that's a very good question, first of all. I would say, first of all, you express yourself as a human. It happened that you love poetry and you're passionate about poetry and you try to write poetry. That's something very interesting. But again, it happened to be a Palestinian. But once I step on the stage and express my feelings or my experiences, I don't think much of that. And I don't talk much about it. I talk about my experiences as a little boy in this camp, as a grown-up man in this banned city. And I try to open my heart to the audience and to the readers. So I write the poetry that I usually think about with myself, because I feel like poetry is a conversation sometimes with the self. Whenever I talk or read my poetry in front of an audience, I also try to talk to myself. Maybe the audience would come because I'm Palestinian, maybe because I'm a poet, but personally, this is how I feel. What I've seen here in the UK is the love and the solidarity by the organizers, which is yourself and the audience who came to attend, which is something I truly appreciate. Last 2 years, whenever you want to fathom what is going on, or to understand, this terror or this violence, you would turn to the sky and ask the sky if it is a prayer you want to say, or if there is anything you want to do. You always turn to the sky, you know what I mean? So I felt, I felt like this poem could be a message to those who lift us, So I titled it, Tell It to the Sky. Tell it to the sky. I was so thirsty. Let's again. Tell it to the sky. I was so thirsty, begging for its tears. Tell it to the sky. Tell it to the sky. I was so hungry and never found even a stale piece of bread, or even a crumb from a dead sun. Tell it to the sky. Tell it. Tell it. I love life. I never hated the sky, but I hate its long arms. Tell it to the sky. This heart is tired of lacerating goodbyes, of running away every day from fleeing memories, of defeats
soaked in blood and sand, of wombs torn open by bombs, of kids dying of bombs, of kids dying of hunger, of pain, of loved ones dying, of the rubble covering my face, choking me, of words left unsaid, of the heat of tents, of burial chambers that never close, of full graveyards, of empty ones, till it to the sky. Tell it how my body has become a ravaged city, only rubble and dust inside, of living in darkness, dying in darkness, of being unable to bury my body, my mother's, my whole family, of standing in queues for water, for food, for a shroud. Tell it to the sky. Ask it, will life ever be the same during or after a genocide, or will there ever be a life after a genocide? Tell it to the sky.
I'm going to ask a question before you start complimenting Henry again. I wanted to ask this the other day because I was at the Leeds gig, and I nearly put my hand up then, and I thought, no, I'm not gonna gag in. It wasn't a Q&A opportunity, but I was still tempted to be like, excuse me. But you started talking. Well, here's my first question, because you were just mentioned being a little boy in the camp, and I wondered about what your introduction to poetry was and how you first realized that you were interested in it. Like, were you good? Yeah. What was your introduction?
That's a very, very good question.
Yes, it's better than Henry's question. Who asked the best question?
I think so far, Nat, yeah.
Yes.
So when it comes to poetry...
Well, she can put the bloody tour together next year.
No.
Sorry, Henry. I would say, Nat, the first poetry is everywhere in the camp or in Gaza City. You would find poetry on walls, murals painted, on your way to the school. You will find it in funerals. You will find it in textbooks. You will find it everywhere, wherever you go. You will in songs, because somebody like Mahmoud Darwish, Marsil Khalifa, who is a Lebanese singer, he sang most of his songs. So this is something you cannot take out of your identity as a poet. But the turning point was studying English literature, at Al-Azhar University in Gaza. And it opened my eyes to the world literature at that time. But this is another discussion, because...
That was going to be my next question.
Which is?
Englishness. Well, because also you mentioned in your discussion in the Leeds gig about the Gaza Poetry Society is not just the first poetry society in Gaza, but a poetry society that is writing poetry in English rather than just translating into English. And so this brought lots of questions to my mind about what's the experience of writing in English as opposed to writing in Arabic, as a creative experience. Because the little I know about Arabic, I'm like, why would you write in any other language? Because there's so much beauty to be found. But also, that also, I think, is making a choice about your audience. And you say your audience is, you're writing for yourself and in conversation with yourself, but you're also choosing a very specific international audience when you're writing in English. So, writing in English. Discuss.
We can add to this, that's also another good question.
How much better is it than Henry's question?
I think so far, a lot.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because we're a team.
I just raised the bar.
I would say English, or having a second language to express your grief, offered you enough space to talk and express yourself. Adding to what you mentioned on the Arabic language, it is a very poetic language. But studying English literature at college, as I mentioned, opened my eyes a bit to the word literature, which was translated into English. But as I'm learning the language and I'm trying to express myself and have a conversation with myself in that language, I'm trying to fill the void of translation or the void of meaning, and this could be somehow poetic. Yeah, very interesting.
You said once to me, Mo, when we were hanging out, was language is like seasons, words are like seasons. Have you? Yeah. How do you feel? Is language this fluid thing that comes, that moves, that goes?
Yeah, that's a beautiful comment.
Shut up! It was me that was talking about seasons. Anyway, I'm always banging on about the seasons. Don't give him any credit. Honestly.
When I said that, I remember thinking of language changes by time. Like it has a different shape, words go in a different way and meanings into another. So I feel language is somehow similar to seasons, It has its own winter, its own summer, its own spring. And what we missed? Which season we missed?
Best one.
Winter.
I said
Autumn.
Autumn.
Yeah. And you remember why I missed autumn again? Because it doesn't exist. I skip autumn. Sorry about that. So when we talk about languages and how they take different shapes by time, it is like seasons. And I feel like the season that we missed mentioning, which is autumn, is very similar to language in its yellowness and in its fall and in its rebirth, maybe.
I loved what you just said. No, now I'm complimenting you. Oh yeah, we're all just lovely. Come on into the smug zone. It's because it's so cozy wozy, just full of love. I didn't love it. I just liked it. What you're saying about as you're trying to learn the language and you're trying to express yourself and express your grief, because it's not instinctual yet, then it can be poetic, and you're suddenly able to perhaps explore different elements of yourself because you're learning how to paint a different picture. It sounds like, and I've also heard people who are bilingual and speak two different languages or more talk about having different personalities in each language. And I've always found that really interesting, that they're a bit more confident if they're in one language, or perhaps they're a bit cheekier in a different one. And particularly it happens if people have two parents who speak different languages, so they'll find their maternal side is in one language and their more masculine side is in another, or something like that.
What should I add also? I mean, I mentioned language and how language changes by time, but we talked about this today, how the use of words in certain language, let's say for example English, it changed by time. And I would say Arabic is also the same. When we look at the modern poetry, for example, and the standard Fusha, classical poetry, Mu'allaqat and others, and you see how language takes a different shape in each season, in each age, let's say, which which is something we must admire and celebrate, because the key behind language is communication. And if we find a language to communicate with, let's keep going.
Speaking of English poets, we were chatting earlier about your love of Loki and how he was an influence on you. And Henry and I went to a Loki gig a couple of months ago in Leeds, and it was electric and was brilliantly supported by another British Palestinian hip-hop artist and called Young Yusuf, and we've got an interview with them coming up soon. But could you talk a bit about Loki and any other kind of artistic influences that have shaped your poetry?
That's a very good question.
Right. I need to point this out. Is Mo gave me such a side eye. They are teaming up against me to try and get a rise. And that's fine. I know I don't have the good questions, but I bring a lot of other elements to the podcast. I do bring the admin to the podcast. Who do you like?
You made this happen, Henry.
Yes, I did.
And then we just have to let him be here in the room with us because he's done all the organising.
Yeah.
I would say, as I mentioned earlier, hip-hop artists really inspired me somehow to talk about myself and to express myself. And I mentioned Loki and Offendem. They inspired me, honestly, from a very young age to express myself and to through poetry and to write poetry a lot. I can't think of other artists and other.
When did you first come across Loki?
I remember when I have heard his first song. They call me a terrorist, and they don't know what a terrorist is. So I really like the lyrics and the song a lot. And then I listened to all of his tracks and Offendem the same. Offendem, for example, is a very brilliant Syrian-American artist who mixes the modern poetry with his poetry, the modern Arabic poetry with his English poetry. So that mix, between two different languages and the musics was very interesting. But if there is something important I need to add on writing poetry, as I mentioned, on being a Palestinian poet, let's say, or a Palestinian, and you read the translation of somebody like Darwish, for example, and you see that his poem adds to the language it is translated into. So when I read I read the poem in Arabic, but when I read the poem in English, I feel like this poem with its theme, a new theme, could add to the language it is translated into. And this, for example, for sure doesn't, mean anything bad about the English language. No, I mean adding to the themes of poetry in English. For sure, I read a lot of classical English poets in my study, and Naomi Shihab, for example, is somebody I admire a lot. The thing is, I'm very bad with names in general, I even forget my names. But so the classical poets, I forgot their names, but I studied them a lot. And the modern Arabic poetry, modern Arabic and English poetry, I studied a lot. And I would say like I'm somebody who like to taste poetry more than just read poetry. So like taste if the poem is good or not, because sometimes a good poem could live with you. You will read it over and over and over again, and sometimes a poem could be just for once. You read it and you say that's a beautiful poem, but you never go back to. So this reading Darwish's poetry in English felt there is an urgency as a Palestinian poet to write in English. And then after that, for sure, people, when they ask, do you write in English or do you write in Arabic? I do write in Arabic for sure, but I don't invest that much in it. I felt like I want to develop my voice to write in English, more English poetry. And by time, I tried to work on this voice and develop it. I'm not going to be an English poet like Henry, for example, which is something...
Why would you want to be?
This guy.
Which is something... it's not. That doesn't mean I'm a bad poet or any of that. But it just maybe I could bring something different when I talk about myself or when I share my poetry. And writing poetry is something I really enjoy doing. And listening to. So still in the journey.
We've got a mutual friend in Harry Baker, who's a poet, but he has quite a lot of hip-hop rap style, and we watched some of his rap battles earlier, and you said, there's a style of this is similar to the type of Arabic poetry that is almost like a rap battle. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I'd never heard of this style of poetry.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Harry because
does Harry do good questions as well?
Because he hosted us in Margate.
Yes.
Yeah. And the guy was really hospitable and kind. When I saw this battle, let's say, in our traditional Palestinian poetry in the spoken Palestinian dialect, they would compete with one another in weddings, and some of them would sing, it would be accompanied with the music, and some poets would just sit in front of one another and try to compete with one another. And the others would be in funerals. The poet will try to mourn the loss of somebody and read a poem out loud. So it is quite unique, despite the different cultures and different countries, such similarities still exist, which I found, very unique and very appealing.
Well, I'd just like to ask one last question, but it's a really easy, simple question. So easy.
It should be.
Can poetry change the world?
Well, again, that's a very good question. As I told you before, a poem is a poem. We understand this part very well. But when we see a revolution and you see the poem spoken out loud, when you see a leader that was moved by one line from a poem. So I feel like the poem has so much, can do so much, and poetry has so much to do, but still it depends on us if we decide to take a change and to change the world.
Mo, would you like us to play a song on the Vandal Factory podcast? Is there a piece of music you think people out there should listen to and enjoy and love?
I would say listen to 47 Soul song, Every Land is a Holy Land.
Hey. Can you put my voice up? More. يا بحاش قبري عالشق السوري الافريقي يا بي لك حشيشة قلبي افريقيا لفلسطين ايد وحدي شابكين صرخة وانقلاب مخيمات لاجئين من افريقيا لفلسطين ايد وحدي شابكين صرخة وانقلاب مخيمات لاجئين بنقول لبابيلون رغم القاهرة احنا هون نرجع عبد الناصر ومانديلا نيلسون والتحية للصوفية تحية للبوذية تحية للبيئة وجميع انواع الروحانية تحية للشعب الراستفاريين صرخة وانقلاب مخيمات عودة لاجئين Shine. Oh my God, it big up, live up yourself in mind. From Africa to Palestine, the sunlight will shine. come big up